Thank you. Mr. President, I'd like to talk about an important part of the Transportation Jobs Bill that the Senate is debating this week. The bill's about creating jobs by modernizing our roadways and our highways, about making bridges safer. We know what that means in the presiding officer's home state in Minneapolis, about improving public transportation, about reducing congestion across the country. It's also about improving the public safety of the vehicles that travel our country. We know the success we've had as a nation because of the partnership between the auto industry and the government in adopting safety rules and working with the industry and making our travel safer. We know about the incredible increase, the very impressive increase in safety on our nation's highways. But 5 years ago, there's still work need to be done. 5 years ago, five years ago tomorrow, a fatal motorcoach accident rocked a small Ohio community and brought national attention to the need for common sense safety measures that can save lives. Bluffton University, a small college in Bluffton, Ohio, near Interstate 75, in Allen and Hancock counties in the northwest part of the state. The school's baseball team was on its way to Florida for spring training. Their bus lost control on a poorly marked exit ramp outside Atlanta. The bus toppled from the overpass. Like the majority of fatal motorcoach accidents, when the bus rolled over, the passengers were ejected from their seats and thrown through bus windows. 7 people were killed, dozens were injured. John and Joy Betts, a couple who have become friends of mine, of Bryan, Ohio, lost their son, David, was one of the students there. David was a baseball player and a student at Bluffton. I've gotten to know the Betts family since the accident, as they've been courageous advocates in raising awareness of motorcoach safety and demanding congressional action. The Betts family, to its everlasting credit, while losing their son, used the loss of their son to save the sons and daughters of many other parents who will not face those tragedies because of the work that the Betts family is doing on behalf of this motorcoach safety legislation. The National Transportation Safety Board's final report from the Bluffton motorcoach accident echoed recommendations the NTSB had been urging for years. For nearly 5 years, I've worked with Senator Hutchinson, whose state has seen its share of tragic motorcoach accidents, to put those recommendations into law. In a bipartisan manner, we're fighting to make motorcoaches safer for the millions of passengers who ride them every day. And today, because of the Betts family and other courageous families and activists, we're taking a step in the right direction. In the 110th, 111th, and now 112th Congress, Senator Hutchinson and I have introduced the bipartisan Motorcoach Enhanced Safety Act, which includes many of those most wanted safety improvements. The bill would address many of the shortfalls from the Bluffton accident. It would mean better protection systems for occupants, stronger passenger safety standards. It would improve safety equipment and devices, and the need for onboard recorders with the ability to collect crash data. These safety measures are neither exotic nor complicated. They're common sense safety measures that have been, and in many cases, are widely used. But since they're not required by law, they've not been installed in most American motor coaches. Instead of saving lives, the public remains at risk. Now, some who oppose improved tour bus safety standards will tell you this isn't a motor coach problem. They'll tell you have a problem with rogue bus companies or bad drivers. Certainly that's part of the problem, but we can't simply look the other way and reject the idea that improving the safety of motor coach manufacturing and of the motor coaches is unnecessary or fiscally imprudent. John Betts said it's necessary through our current regulations to get bad operators off the road. It's not sufficient, as it does nothing, though, to ensure safety once the crash has occurred. We can get bad operators off the road, but we must ensure passenger safety in the tragic event of an accident. If the technology to save lives and reduce injuries exists, we must put that technology to use. Last year in Cleveland, I was joined by John's sister and brother-in-law, Pam and Tom Bryan of Vermillion. We met with a Greyhound bus driver who showcased new Greyhound buses equipped with some common sense safety measures that clearly will save lives, clearly protect both passengers and motorists on the road. But the Betts family and operators like Greyhound understand the urgent need and too often have lived the painful reminders that safety improvements are long overdue. That's why this act is so important. It's why Greyhound has endorsed this bill, which is critical to turning public sadness and outrage into public action. Bus operators like Greyhound think we can do this. Manufacturers do too. The technology's there. The bill is common sense. It's bipartisan. It will save lives. Mr. President, how many more motor coach deaths in Ohio, in Texas, most recently in New York and New Jersey do we have to witness before bus companies start doing the right thing? As a father, it's disturbing to know that students are still traveling in motor coaches without even the option of buckling up. Our laws should ensure that our vehicles and roads are safer, not less safe, for students, for their families, for elderly people who often take motor coach charters to events and concerts and all. Tomorrow, Mr. President, is the 5th anniversary of the Bluffton University tragic motor coach accident. Our legislation is in the underlying transportation bill, which we are debating on the Senate floor today. I urge its passage. I urge the continued inclusion of these provisions that Senator Hutchison and I have asked for. It's common sense, middle of the road, bipartisan legislation that will save lives undoubtedly. Thanks, Mr. President. I yield the floor and suggest the advocate.